Let's talk about canceling and let's talk about booking, right? So the client comes to us and says, we're interested in doing XYZ trip. What is an amount of lead time? Obviously, the more is better, but let's be practical for their purposes. Like, what's a standard? How much do you need? Let's start with here to the Caribbean, and then let's look at an example like you're in Europe. You fly into one of the majors, and then you want to do point to point.
Absolutely. So, uh, one, reinforce, the more lead time, the better. Uh, as you start to get within a 2-week booking window, things can start to become a little bit tighter. If you're booking out beyond 2 weeks, that's a really nice sweet spot. And especially as you get international, the lead time is certainly valued. Like 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 weeks, you know, you're going to end up with really solid options and solid pricing. Um, but to kind of put that into perspective, below 2 weeks, the market starts to get constrained, and you're going to get hit with a kind of a timing premium for your booking. To get into cancellation a little bit, because it's an extremely important topic, cancellation is treated differently across the kind of different product and service verticals. So one of the benefits that some people really enjoy with membership products and jet card products is that defined booking window and also a defined cancellation window in very well-defined cancellation terms. When you're out on the on-demand charter market or using most on-demand services, what's going to happen is you're going to have the operator's cancellation policy generally passed on to you. And in some instances, that may be better than a membership program or a jet card. In some instances, it may be worse. But I would say that the primary concern for all travelers in private aviation and cancellations fee within terms of cancellation policy is incurring that full cancellation fee, which is in play. And you're talking about a significant 5 or even 6-figure number with some itineraries. As we look at the private aviation ecosystem as a whole, it's in everybody's best interest to operate at that level to provide that service to clients. But to give you bad example or bad outcome from that is an aircraft is flying from Van Nuys in California with passengers to Philadelphia. If the passengers in Van Nuys are slow getting on the aircraft or late or delayed for whatever reason, that crew coming into Philadelphia, that they may have gone for an extra hour and a half of duty time as they waited for those passengers, now they're not able to pre-position for their next client, which impacts the end user.
How much of this does my client have to worry about in terms of everything you just mentioned about the crew and everything? Because we don't want to turn people off to the idea, but we want them to be as educated as possible from you all.
Absolutely. So I think every charter broker is extremely proactive in managing that. It's a known component of aviation, especially as it comes down to crew duty days. So everybody is proactively managing those scenarios. A client at the end of the day, 99% of the time is going to have no idea that these various dynamics are at play or that something is moving behind the scenes. The only time that a client is truly impacted is when something, royally goes wrong. And, sometimes those are things that are out of everybody's control, like a mechanical. It's just mechanical's the nasty, truth of aviation. It happens. But the best thing to do is be proactive. And then when it does happen, have, contingency plans in place to have no impact on the client, or at least mitigate that impact on the client. So I think most people don't need to be concerned, but as you start to work with a charter broker or with a provider, and you're discussing itineraries, they're going to be proactive, but it's important for end users to keep in mind as well. And the most relevant domestic example that we have of this is college football for the SEC and for Big Ten schools. People love football. People love tailgating. there are a lot of people who will fly in for games and they'll leave the morning of the game to get in there and go tailgate. And, a provider will tell them, listen, I know you're here to have fun and you want to stay for the game and stay after the game, but we have a hard window where you need to be back to the aircraft, by 8 p.m. for us to actually take you back this evening. As an end user that needs to register, and if you show up at that aircraft at 9 o'clock, unfortunately, you're not going home that evening.
Right.
And that's, FAA duty regulations. That's not, in anybody's control in that sense. The other thing that we do is, if the client in advance is very clear with their requirements or expectations, saying, listen, I'm tailgating till 10 p.m. come hell or high water, and that's my plan. One of the things that we're able to offer is say, listen, do you want us to have an auxiliary crew positioned at an expense, but have a second crew positioned there so that, if you roll out at 11 o'clock at night, you're able to go home that evening, but it's utilizing that second crew. So that's where some of the proactive communication and just understanding of the limitations can, generate wins for everybody in a phenomenal experience. But if we're not prepared for that, then we're not able to deliver.
Well, that jives very well with our message at the Opulent Explorer, which is we are experts in you, the traveler, our client. We know you, how you'd like to travel, and we partner with suppliers such as yourselves that are not available to the general public. In some cases, certainly most of the Virtuoso exclusive providers and the people we use as on-sites in certain countries. And they are experts, and you are experts in the product that you have. So it takes the volatility of everybody's situation way down when I have partners like you that we can lean on to get things like complicated things like this done and take all, like I always say, just take the volatility out of it. So that's
100%.
That's why we do these vodcast series, is to show how we work together, your expertise married with my expertise of the client, and then you would be just a component of our trip that I'd put together for them. So it's educational for everybody involved to see how this process works, which is great.
Yeah, and it's massive risk mitigation as well.